hope you enjoyed that, because I'm never going to get that ridiculous on this channel ever again. And no, this is not sarcasm. Hey YouTube, this is your Bean speaking. If you didn't get it from that ridiculous intro, today I'm going to show you the process behind my Avatar: The Last Airbender and Steven Universe mashup pieces. I've always loved cartoons and still love them to this day, and I'm a firm believer that cartoons are for everyone, not just for kids, but adults as well. And I'm not just talking about adult animation like Bob's Burgers, American Dad, and shows like that, even though those shows are hilarious and I love them. But I'm talking about shows that come on children's networks. They're directed toward kids, but adults could still watch them, enjoy them, and even benefit from them. Avatar: The Last Airbender is a show that came out when I was around the same age as the main characters. I loved it as a kid, and I still thoroughly enjoy it today, even considering it probably my favorite show and watching it almost every year. The show's themes and lessons taught me a lot as a kid and are still incredibly relevant to this day. I hold a lot of the values that I learned from that show still very close to my heart. Not to mention that the action and lore is pretty cool. Steven Universe, on the other hand, is a show that I didn't get into until college. I had given it a chance a couple times before, watching maybe 3 or 4 episodes, but I just didn't get into it. But it took a lot of prodding from some very good friends for me to really give it the chance that it deserved. And let me tell you, it did not let me down. The show starts off as an innocent and silly children's cartoon, but soon takes a deep dive into some serious issues and intense emotions. So that's why I decided to take these two incredible shows, take the characters from both shows, mash them up into these pieces, and make some what I think is pretty cool fan art. So let's take a look. So these first few pieces that I did, I followed my traditional method for digital art and just started with a sketch layer, then moved on to line work, then put down flat colors, and then added details. Later on you'll see that I kind of mix up this process and do some things out of order. But here we're starting with the Garnet and Sokka piece. Got the sketch layer going on here. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to put Garnet in her gauntlets or not. Eventually I decided not to, and I struggled a little bit with the pose for Sokka. You'll also notice that the Steven Universe characters on these pieces are in their old outfits originally. This is because these pieces were actually done quite a while ago, before the Steven Universe movie even came out. Back in, I guess, fall of 2019. I have just recently finished them and gone back and fixed their outfits to be the kind of latest version. I did this because the Avatar characters are in their latest versions of their outfits as well. You'll notice that with Katara right here, that she's wearing the outfit that she's wearing in the comics and graphic novels for Avatar. So this step that I'm working on right here isn't something I usually do in my process. I am actually doing colored line art for these pieces. Colored line art often has a more fun animation feel. It's used a lot in Disney, for example, and I thought it'd be really good for these pieces because these are kind of an homage to my love of animation and cartoons. So the way I did this colored line art was I took my regular line art layer and I lowered the opacity to about 20 or so, and then I made a layer on top and changed the color of the ink pen that I was using and matched the color kind of to what the object was that I was outlining. So for example, Toph's pants are a green color, so I just took a darker green and outlined her pants in that. That way the outline was always a little bit darker than the object that it was around. So here I'm laying down the flat colors for my Aang and Steven piece. As I usually do, I put down a solid flat color over the entire piece and will color on top of that. You'll see also here that I am adding the shadows and highlights, and then at the very end I go back and I realize that I want Steven to be in his latest outfit, so I add that in the end as well. I also struggled a little bit with what I wanted in the background for these pieces, whether I wanted a solid color, different color for each piece, a gradient, something like that. In the end, I just went with a darker gray tone because I thought the characters would pop off more from a darker color in the background. Here in these later pieces, with Suki and Peridot here, I use a little bit of a different technique. Instead of putting down a solid flat color and then drawing on top of that, I actually went through piece by piece and colored the individual objects. I don't know exactly why I did it this way. I just started coloring and completely forgot my usual technique. But it ended up working out in the end, and it actually eliminated a middle step, so it took a little less time. As I said earlier, these later pieces are done a little bit out of order from the other ones. You'll notice that this piece, the line art, isn't even colored yet. That's because I actually did the colored line art after doing the flat colors. This helped out a little bit actually, because I was able to reference the flat colors that I had down and see if the colors that I was choosing for the line art worked with the colors that I had. So you can see that I actually go back and forth a lot between making the flat colors layer visible. This is just so, like I said, I can see if the colors that I'm choosing for my line art work with the colors that are on the piece itself. Because if the green that I'm using in Suki's dress, for example, is a warmer tone, and the green that I'm outlining it with is a cooler tone, then they're not going to match quite as much as I want them to. And then this piece here with Connie and all the animals, I kind of went back to my original technique for coloring and laid down a flat pink layer over everything. I did that for this one because I knew that it was going to be a little bit more detailed coloring with all the fur textures and things from the animals, so I made sure to do that instead of like I did with Peridot and Suki, where I just colored everything individually without worrying about a bottom layer. This was actually my favorite piece out of all of them to draw. It's the one that challenged me the most. I'm not typically comfortable drawing animals, or as comfortable as I am drawing people. I just don't draw them as often. So it was really a lot of fun to push myself out of my comfort zone and draw Momo, Appa, and Lion. Not to mention lions used to be one of my favorite animals, so I drew them a lot as a kid. And it's cool to see now how much better I've gotten with drawing lions, because they did not used to look like lions when I drew them. Last but certainly not least is Lapis and Zuko here. I saved this piece for last because it had the most end details put into it with the effects of the fire and the water, and I wanted to show kind of how much a piece can change when you add these last little touches. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more. If you're an Avatar Steven Universe lover, be sure to share this with your friends. I'm sure they'll get a kick out of it as well. Thanks guys.